Hi, everyone. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jeff.
And you're listening to We Judge a Show by its Pilot, a podcast where we do exactly what the title says. On today's episode, we're judging the pilot of one of Jeff's favorite shows.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hey, what's happening?
Man, we haven't recorded in a minute.
I know, it's been a while. I've been traveling for work quite a bit.
You've been traveling a lot.
I had a trip to Florida, and then I had like almost 2 back-to-back trips, and then throw in my law school reunion. So that was like 6 days, almost in a row. I was gone and did not even see you.
Yeah.
Like, I think I saw you for a couple of hours. That Friday night, I got home from my Ole Miss trip, went to my law school reunion, and actually spent the night in New Orleans because I had to fly out that Sunday really early, and it just would have been stupid for me to come home.
Yeah.
And then I was gone for another 3 days, and then just you work.
Yeah.
And then it's been crazy. So welcome back.
Welcome back, Anna and me.
Yes, we are back.
And we also had some technical difficulties with our last few episodes.
So you were trying to figure that out?
Been trying to figure that out. I just got a brand new laptop, which I'm really, really excited about. But since it is a little fancier laptop than what I've had in the past, it does have additional audio enhancements that options that I was not aware of, that I had to turn off when I plugged in the audio mixer into the laptop. So there was just like I'm not sure what it was or why, but it happened. And
I mean, it was okay. It sounded like you were in a warehouse, and I sort of sounded normal, which was kind of weird, but yeah, it was fine.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good.
So we are here, and we are continuing November, and today we're back to having a funny show. Well, yeah, I guess MASH was funny. So, I mean, I kind of intentionally did that.
Yeah, like I said during MASH I think it was trying to put a funny spin on a heavy subject.
Right.
It was.
Whereas this show kind of takes light on something that's already kind of probably made light of and made fun of a lot. Working at your local government.
Yeah, especially small town.
Right. And we are talking about Parks and Recreation. This is one of my favorite shows. I don't know if it's one of my favorite shows of all time, but it's definitely top, probably like 20, 25, something like that.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Get into all that in a minute, but Anna's going to go ahead and give us some series and episode information.
The pilot, Parks and Recreation, was a political satirical mockumentary that aired on NBC from April 9th, 2009 to February 24th, 2015 for 7 seasons for a total of 126 episodes. A special reunion episode aired on April 30th, 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic to raise money for Feeding America's COVID-19 Response Fund.
It was really funny.
It was good. The series was created by Greg Daniels and Michael Schur. Daniels is best known for creating the U.S. adaptation of The Office. Schur was a producer, writer, and played Cousin Mose on The Office, Dwight's cousin.
Boy, did he.
Oh my God, he was amazing. Daniels and Schur were tasked with creating a spin-off for The Office, but soon abandoned it because nothing really fit quite right. The series was originally supposed to be a spin-off that focused on Karen Filippelli, a character from The Office played by Rashida Jones. That idea was scrapped, and instead of a direct spin-off, they decided on a completely separate premise and setting, but still kept elements of The Office like the mockumentary style in improv comedy. Parks and Rec is set in the fictional town of Pawnee, Indiana, and focuses on the staff of the town's Parks and Recreation Department. Season 1 primarily focuses on the optimistic deputy director, Leslie Knope, played by Amy Poehler, as she tries to make Pawnee a better place. The first season's cast includes Pawnee townsperson Ann Perkins, played by Rashida Jones, city planner Mark Brendanowicz,
there it is,
played by Paul Schneider, Leslie's assistant, Tom Haverford, played by Aziz Ansari, my favorite. Deputy Director Ron Swanson, played by Nick Offerman. Office intern April Ludgate, played by Aubrey Plaza, and credited as a guest star Anne's boyfriend, Andy Dwyer, played by Chris Pratt.
It's so funny that he started off as a guest star.
Oh, yeah. And then, although they only appear briefly on camera, we can see office manager Donna Meagle, played by Retta.
Your other favorite.
My other favorite. And Jerry Larry Terry Gergich, played by Jim O'Hare. And you can currently watch the full series on Peacock.
That really is great that I didn't even include all the names that they had.
Throughout, all the different names that they called him.
So I remember the first episode that we watched together because we were at my old apartment, and I had put on Happy Endings for the first time for you, and then it was The Bubble. It was when Ron was in that desk that was
spinning around.
He couldn't hide from anyone. Was that the first episode you had ever seen?
No, I think I had initially watched a couple of the episodes because I loved Amy Poehler and Tina Fey on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
I didn't watch 30 Rock, which was Tina Fey's big post SNL show that she did. I don't think I have ever watched an episode of that. But I'd wanted to give Parks and Rec a chance just because it seemed like a comedy that I would watch. And I think I watched a few episodes. I don't remember what day of the week it came on.
Yeah.
But again, I think there was just so much TV I was probably watching. It just probably went by the wayside.
2009, yeah.
Yeah, 2009. Yeah, I mean, I had been in this house for a couple of years, so I mean, I know I had NBC, but yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I know I watched a couple, but never like full on watching it through, like an entire even season.
Yeah.
But what about you?
So I, just like you, I love Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. I've been knowing about Amy Poehler since like the Upright Citizens Brigade TV show, the sketch show that they used to have on Comedy Central, I think. And Amy Poehler and Tina Fey were both guest judges on the Extreme Challenge back in the day, where they had to do an improv challenge.
Oh wow!
And they were hosting the Upright Citizens Brigade. I don't even think they were with SNL yet.
Oh wow!
Which is really funny. So a little challenge history, a little challenge crossover. So yeah, and Tina Fey I knew from SNL and Mean Girls, and then Amy Poehler, I mean, she's just been in so much stuff. I don't think I watched it when it first originally aired, but I definitely started watching it when I got into just kind of all of the like Arrested Development, and because it wasn't all original. Like I didn't originally watch The Office when it originally aired, or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, that kind of like brand of humor. I wasn't into it when this show first came out. I guess you would call it cringe comedy, where you kind of like the humor is in like the real life situations, like The Office does really well, and Modern Family and all those type of shows. It wasn't really my thing at the time, so it took me a minute to kind of get into it. I think I started watching it when it reran. I want to say it was like on FX maybe.
Okay.
And I started watching it then. I marathoned it, and much like The Office, the first season, it takes you a minute to get into the show. And I think a lot of people would agree with that. And it was one of those shows that it took kind of a minute to find its footing, and I could see that as I was watching it, because at this point I was watching The Office and all those other types of shows. So I was like, okay, well, they're just kind of doing what everyone else is doing. And they're kind of doing it too late, I thought maybe. And I think it was season 3. It was when Rob Lowe and Adam Scott joined the show.
Okay.
And Paul Schneider, spoiler alert.
And I never had watched The Office really until I met you.
Yeah.
And then it was even later after I met you. But I think I knew it had tried that style.
Yeah.
And while it does say mockumentary, I don't think they took it to the level that The Office did.
Where it was like meta. And
yeah.
They were like airing the documentary while they were doing episodes.
Yeah. So, or that you knew that there were camera people there and they were doing interviews. And I mean, I know they sort of did those direct to camera interviews in Parks and Rec, but it wasn't really. It wasn't like that.
They never really broke the fourth wall. I think The Office may have been like the only one that really kind of did that, which made it them unique in their own way.
Yeah.
But yeah, once the show kind of found its stride, season 3, I argue, is like one of the best seasons of any show, especially a sitcom that has some of the best episodes. That has your favorite, the Pawnee Rangers and
the Pawnee Goddesses.
Yeah, yes, and then there's the Soulmates. God, I couldn't remember the name
Soulmates.
of it.
Oh my God.
Then it has the fight. It has the fight where they all get drunk on snake juice at the bar and they all get into different fights. It's like season 3 is so good.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All those episodes. I could just watch that over and over again.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was definitely one of those shows that once I got into it, it became one of my favorite shows, and I watched it week to week, or at least I DVR'd it.
Is Soulmates the episode when... Oh yeah, is it when they're having the hamburger cook-off?
Yeah,
okay, that whole episode. What's this? A peach? I knew that.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, like in the show, it was one of those shows that had like a very satisfying kind of like it never got old. Like it never kind of lost its momentum. Even like watching the last season. It still was a lot of fun because they did an intentional time jump for the final season, and it really made the show a lot more fun to watch because it was like, you got to see them further down the road. So yeah, I mean, like this is just one of those shows that it took me a minute, but I got into it. And I think we can say that maybe there are other shows because I mean, this was one of those shows that for everyone took a minute for everyone to get into, and it had a rough start, but. Are there any shows like that you remember not maybe liking at first, and that you eventually started liking? Like,
oh my gosh, I'm really trying to think.
I mean,
what about you?
I have a few for me. Like, I know that like when I watched the first season of The Office, I was like, why is this show so popular? I was just like, I don't understand, because by this point when I watched the first season of The Office, I think they were in like season 3 or 4 or something like that.
Okay.
And so everyone was talking about The Office. Everyone watched The Office. And I remember like just watching the first season. I think I borrowed like the DVD from someone, and it has like 6 episodes or something like that. And I just remember watching it and just being like, this isn't funny. I was just like, this isn't a funny show. And someone was like, no, just keep watching it. And that was when I found out about like streaming sites for the first time. And that's where I found like different websites where you can get free streaming. I don't know how legal it was, but it was back in the earlier days of the internet, when streaming was still easy to find. Free streaming was easy to find for a while. And I remember watching season 2 and just being like, man, I really had an attention span back then, because like I could never watch 2 full seasons of a show and be like, you know what, I'm gonna stick with this. I'm gonna keep giving it a try. And then finally, like at some point in season 3, I was like, okay, I get it now. And then I remember season 4 is like one of the greatest seasons as well. I also didn't like Game of Thrones at first. That was one I remember.
I was gonna say that one for you,
because when I first watched, I think I said it in the West Wing episode. It was just like I just thought it was so boring. Like I just didn't. And by this point, this is when it was new, so it wasn't necessarily like everyone was talking about it at the time. So I feel like I kind of, when the show got really popular, I don't know, maybe I just kind of missed it, and so I just never really gave it another chance until I moved in with you.
Well, I will say, like, Parks and Rec has to be one, because I kind of watched a few of the episodes wanting to give it a try and then wasn't interested. And then you showed me a couple of, like, the more hilarious episodes, which made me want to go back.
Good ones, yeah.
And then, you know that I did not watch The Office on purpose back when it aired, because I was rebelling against it. And it's now probably one of my absolute favorite shows of all time. But I'm really trying to think of like a series that I watched and then dropped off of, but then came back to. I mean, there could be a ton. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, so it's really hard to pinpoint one exact that I did that for.
I know that there were a few shows that I would just like kind of stop watching like a random season, and then I would just kind of forget about it. and then I would go back and rewatch it, and then I would kind of finish it. Like I did that with How I Met Your Mother like 3 different times because that show went on for such a long time. Like,
well, I can then say it about 2 episodes we're getting ready to record, and they are 2 that I regret not finishing, and it is Homeland and The Americans. So teasers to those shows.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I loved both of those, and I watched probably 80% of them. And again, just life got in the way and more shows started happening. And I think for me, that is the problem these days is, I mean, we already have like 5 or 6 other shows that our friends have told us to watch. It's just, there's not enough hours in the day to watch these shows. It's like, stop with stuff. So
yeah, and then we have all these other shows that we watched the first episode and we really liked and we want to keep watching it, but then we're like, okay, we have to commit to one. So yeah.
And then we have old favorites that have been gone, like Outer Banks. Is back.
We haven't out of nowhere,
right? And we have to watch it because we've watched all of that. And then Stranger Things is coming, and
Cobra Kai is already halfway through.
Cobra Kai, we started and stopped, and I mean, it's just never ending. So I think that to me is like probably 75% of my issue these days is there's just so much, and then. We haven't even talked about just movies.
Oh, well, yeah. Like, that's a completely different conversation.
Correct. Because there's already a movie I want us to watch tonight. So that'll get in the way of watching any more TV shows.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
for a couple hours.
It's funny because, like, I went through a really long phase where we weren't watching movies at all. But, I went through a really long period of time where I wasn't watching movies. But since we started this podcast, I've been wanting to watch movies more.
Yes, because I know that it's finite. I know once we finish the movie, it's done.
Over.
Yeah. And there's no committing to watching more. Or I will say that I do like the series that are only 1 to 3 seasons and maybe like only 8 episodes a season.
Right.
I mean, if we were going to watch something like Dynasty or Dallas or Melrose Place that was like 30 episodes a season for 7 to 9 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we could never catch up.
Right.
I mean, I guess unless we binged for like 2 weeks straight or something.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day we'll do that.
Maybe one day we can do that. So I think one of the recurring themes in Parks and Rec, and even if you don't necessarily have never watched the show, a lot of the clips of their scenes from all of the different town hall meetings that happened on the show, like every other episode they had a town hall meeting, and it was kind of, a focal point for a lot of comedy and a lot of, real, I guess, kind of like how real it is of how petty people can be, and how like ridiculous people can be.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like we'll get into the episode summary in a second, but like they have this town hall meeting at the beginning of the episode, and Rashida Jones's character is really the only like normal townsperson in the whole town hall meeting. I was just wondering because I always grew up in a city. I don't really know of a town hall meeting. Have you ever been to anything like that before?
I'm trying to think, like, not like I lived in Monroe, Louisiana.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You lived in New Orleans.
I've lived in bigger cities.
Right.
But I think you can even have like local towns. Like, I lived on the West Bank in Algiers, obviously my whole life. We live in a small town in, our parish, but not really, not where people were going to like talk to their city council members to talk about something that they wanted. I don't think I've ever been to anything like that.
So on the like the kind of tail end of dealing with like eccentric townspeople, I would say we have some pretty eccentric neighbors in our neighborhood.
With our HOA and subdivision.
Did you ever go to an HOA meeting?
Yes.
What was that like?
I went to a couple. Actually, I mean, it's interesting because I'm trying to think of how many houses we have in this subdivision.
I was about to say people are a lot braver on Facebook.
Oh, for sure. But there are about 400 houses in our subdivision with the new filing that was built. But
we live in a really big neighborhood.
Yeah, we live in a big neighborhood, and I will say the people that went to the HOA, and I went only because our neighbors, John and Lucy, were going, and I don't remember there might have been something that was happening that why we were all going.
Yeah.
And I think we went and I just sat kind of like quietly just wanting to listen to see what people were talking about, and everyone was actually pretty decent to one another in speaking. It's like you said, on Facebook, it's easy to hide behind Facebook, even though your name is attached. And I mean, if you're at a town meeting, no one knows who your name, your name. I mean, they know what you look like or whatever, but I don't remember it being super insane.
Okay.
But I mean, no one fought with each other, not like how they fight on Facebook,
it is insane.
I mean, when, there's like a family who for some reason or another cannot keep their 2 humongous Rottweilers in their fence. Look, for me as like a former pet owner with you, if I knew that Maggie had been consistently getting out, I would have been like, babe, we have got to find out how Maggie is getting out every day. I mean, they are out of their yard every single day. Yeah. There is a post. There are 2 Rottweilers going down the street. Yep. And of course, I say Rottweiler and all dogs are very kind, but Rottweilers initially have that first thought of that they're dangerous, that they're vicious.
Right. If you're not a dog person, they can be very threatening looking.
Yes,
whereas
they're big.
You and me know that big dogs are usually the sweetest.
Right. Well, Maggie was like a horse. Yeah. So, so I can see why people get upset because these 2 dogs are always 100%. Getting out.
Yeah.
And or they're pooping in people's yards, and then you see the threats happening like, I know whose dogs these are, and I'm going to scoop the poop and put it in your yard, and then those people will come back and say like, I dare you, don't come on my property, that is trespassing. And then you've got like, it gets out of control. And then you also have the kids that are driving golf carts, and then they're speeding.
Don't even get me started on that.
I mean, we had not a run-in. I will not say that because we did not confront anyone. The kids almost ran into us, and it was really the one time I felt compelled to post because they were driving around, no helmets or anything. She was on their phone, and there were like six
of them.
Six of them on the golf cart.
I don't know exactly how they lost control of it. I'm like, do y'all not understand how a brake works? I didn't really fully understand what had happened if they like started skidding because of all the gravel, because that was when there was a lot of construction going on.
Well, it was when the new street started forming to go right, where ours used to just be a curve, and they now added a right turn. Mm-hmm. And I think it was they were used to just taking that curve without stopping, because you didn't usually have to stop, and it now became a T. And so I don't think they saw us coming, but thankfully, because you and I are both very cautious drivers, you saw them. And you had
I came to a complete stop, and I tried to pull over as far as I could, into someone's yard practically.
Yeah. And so had you not done that, they probably would have hit us.
They came and I'm not even exaggerating. They were inches away. Like if our windows were rolled down, you could have you could have,
we could
they
see
were right
that
there.
Her phone had it was like glittery. Yeah. Like she had a sparkly cell phone.
And then you immediately went on the
Facebook
HOA page and posted it. And the parent immediately responded and was like, I know who that is. That is my daughter. I am sorry. She is punished. And now we were just like, cool. Hey, all right. We can delete this. We can delete this post.
And my post really wasn't like, oh my God, the parents are bad for letting their kids.
It was just like, I was like, they could have been seriously hurt.
Correct. Yeah. That was what it was. I was just like, oh my gosh, they are driving so fast. And I know, we don't have a golf cart. We don't have any,
I don't want one.
Maddie does not live here with us. And if she did, I doubt she would be speeding around the neighborhood in a golf cart. But that was it. It was like, at least tell them that there are other cars.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact, the way that they were coming, the house that you stopped in front of is a house that has a lot of kids in it, and they are always in the yard and driveway and street.
Yeah.
So they could have easily actually hurt a child.
Yeah.
That was also the thing, because had they hit us, we would have been okay.
We would
I
have
mean,
been
my
fine.
car would
Yeah.
have maybe been damaged some, but the 6 of them would have likely flown out out of the golf cart and could have been seriously injured. That was the point of my
Yes.
post, and I was glad that the parents saw that. It wasn't like I wasn't demeaning them.
Yeah.
Because again, we see the kids all the time. They're on their like little motorbikes. They're on the golf carts. They're on their electric scooters. And
They've gotten a lot better. I'll say they've gotten better.
they have. So our HOA page can be pretty crazy sometimes, but I will also go in to say that it can be very good.
We had a Ron Swanson experience with our generator, I guess we can call him our generator guy, like Holly has a neon guy.
Yes.
So it was
Ida.
Yeah, it was
years ago.
Hurricane Ida a few years ago. We had like a gas operated generator. We now have a Generac because of Ida.
Yes.
Which is fucking amazing. It's so good. Anyway, so we already had it, this generator. You had it.
This was mine. Yeah.
And we couldn't quite figure out how to operate it. And
I know how to operate it. It wouldn't start.
Okay.
It needed to be cleaned out, and I didn't know how to do that.
Right. And I think in preparation of the hurricane, a guy posted on the HOA page and was like, if anyone needs help with their generator, just let me know. It was like something like that.
Yeah.
And then you were like, hey, we need help with the generator. You want to make sure that we were both home so we can both learn how to do it.
Yeah. I was like, we're both watching.
He showed me how to do it. And of course, like it seemed very simple. And it was my last and final reminder that when someone gives you directions, no matter how easy it seems, write it in your fucking notes in your phone
or record it
because I might forget something very minute.
Because we were stressed. I mean, it was like the hurricane was coming.
Yeah, the hurricane was hitting us. We lost power. We went to go turn the generator on and it wouldn't turn on. And so it's you, it's me, it's my mom, it's Alicia and Max. And we were we really, we were kind of stressing out. And I think you messaged him.
Yeah, I had his text by then. Yeah, because he had come to help clean it out.
Mm-hmm.
He had turned it on.
Yep.
And was like, this is how it goes. But then, he turned it off because we hadn't lost power. No. But he's like, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Like, all you need to do is crank it and you're good. And when you went to do it, it didn't turn on.
Right.
And we were like, we tried. And then so I texted him.
Right. And so you texted him. And I would say maybe 10 minutes.
He lived in the neighborhood. Yeah.
Maybe 10 minutes. I get a knock at the door. And so we pride ourselves on being very smart and very rational people and that we will always survive a horror movie. But when I opened the door, he had the little helmet with the headlight on his head.
Oh yeah,
just like the killer from My Bloody Valentine.
And I know what you did last summer. Right. He looked like that fisherman.
And then he had the full rain suit, the
yes,
slicker on,
boots.
Just like the guy. Exactly.
Oh my God,
it was the combo. It was my. Yes. I know what you did last summer. And My Bloody Valentine on top.
Yes, it was hilarious.
The minor, yeah, and so I didn't even hesitate. I was like, he didn't say who he was. He didn't let me know anything. All I saw was a bright light and like the silhouette of what could very well be a masked serial killer. And but it wasn't. It was our neighbor. But I just immediately let him in. I was like, come in. Like, if you know how to use a generator, I don't care. You can kill us after. But it's him. And I had forgotten once again, it was a very simple thing that I forgot to...
A switch.
Yeah, I just had to hit a switch before I started it. And he actually, showed me how to do it and let me do it myself so it wouldn't be just him doing it. So I could turn it on while he was here, which also helped me out.
Yeah, and I appreciated that because it was like he was teaching you how to do it.
Yeah, not just showing me. Because that's personally how I learn. I have to do it myself until I figure it out. And then I was a generator expert by the time our power came back on.
Exactly. Yeah, because we had lost power for a week.
Days, yeah.
I was going back and forth to Lafayette, Louisiana. Mm-hmm. My sister and I were switching out gas cans. She was getting gas for us. But that just showed me one time when, the HOA page can be good. And also during that hurricane, the funny things that were happening. People were wanting Diet Cokes.
Oh, yeah.
People were running out of like toilet paper or diapers because stores were still closed. And
it really was kind of the time where the neighborhood really kind of stepped up and was like, I know we have our petty bullshit, but like this is real.
Yeah.
And this is a real thing. And some people are struggling. Some people don't have the means to go get all of the supplies that you and I were able to get. And everyone really, I mean, we even had, I mean, like the guy he doesn't live in our neighborhood anymore, but he fixed our roof.
Oh, yeah.
Because we had in the middle of the hurricane, Alicia sleeping on our couch because that was when our living room was set up differently.
Yeah.
And water started dripping on her. And so she
got a bucket.
finally, my mom went and stayed with my sister. And then Alicia got the bed. And then Alicia got the bedroom. So then it was, then everything was fine.
But he came and tarped our roof. Yeah. And he is a roofer. I mean, that's what his business is. But he had also posted on the HOA page, if anyone has roof damage, here's my number. And I messaged him and I got in his queue because a bunch of us had issues in the neighborhood with our roofs because of the hurricane.
I mean, we were in like, especially our kind of area of the neighborhood. We were like, I mean, our front door, we have like a little hallway,
foyer entry.
Little foyer entry by our front door. And I mean, it was like a wind tunnel. It was like this. It sounded like a tornado was inside of our house. I mean, like it was so loud, and we had the wind just hitting our front door that
water was gushing in.
We had to cover it up and then barricade it, and we were like, okay, so we're not using the front door because not that we needed to, but I mean, like.
Well, we also had to use a lot of my work promo item boxes to barricade the door, but also I think we used every single towel in the house because water was gushing in. And then we didn't have a dryer. So it was just crazy. So, like that hurricane was a nightmare, but we now have a Generac.
Yeah. And then the last hurricane that came through ended up not being that bad. So it was just like 8 hours, 10 hours of, I mean, we had power the whole time, but I think our neighborhood didn't have power. I mean, like we live in an area where that's all power lines. So we lose power if the wind blows too hard. So I mean, like,
and even if it doesn't blow too hard, but yeah, thankfully now, well, I think the other day we lost power for a tree fell on the highway. And I remember you were trying to take a nap. I was on the road and you were like, oh my gosh, all the generators are going. I can hear them. I can't sleep. So.
Oh no, you were out of town. And and it was my day off and I was just like, I had just gone and done all my errands for the day. Yeah, that's funny. I forgot about that. I was like, I want to go lay down. I hear, I'm just like, oh my God, because our neighbor's generator was going, and I'm just like,
the generators.
Oh my God.
And it's, you like the sound, especially when it's at your house, because you're like, oh, I have power, I have air conditioning, I could at least like not be hot. I mean, a lot of times if we lose cable and internet, I mean, we don't have that, but whatever.
Well, we also have like a shit ton of DVDs and
correct,
movies.
and downloaded movies, but yeah.
So how do you think you'd handle working like a government job? Because you have a corporate job, and I guess I don't have a corporate job, but I work in the restaurant industry, so it's not the same. How do you think you'd handle working like a government job?
I don't know, because I have a feeling a government job is probably somewhat similar to a corporate job in the sense that there's a hierarchy, obviously federal versus state government. So like if you work for the state, you're essentially working for the governor and then kind of in departments under that within like the parish or the city or, whatever government sector you're working under. I'm a rule follower. I can follow any rules or any guidelines that are set. I do think it's maybe sometimes difficult in working for people. Yeah. Particularly when things are out of your control. And I'm going to give you one example recently that happened to us. And that was when I had my surgery. A benefit that came with my surgery was getting a handicap tag for the car. Now, I had gone before the surgery to go get this placard, this tag, hanging tag, because I was like, I need it before so that once I have the surgery, I'm not going to have to worry about coming here.
Right.
Well, I didn't realize in our parish you have to set an appointment at the DMV. I had never really gone to the DMV in our parish. I had always, I think, gone either to Orleans or East Baton Rouge to get my state driver's license. Well, so I had asked, I said, well, how long is it going to take? And she's like, well, since you don't have an appointment, it can take like 2 or 3 hours. And I'm like, literally for me to get a handicap placard, I had my note from the doctor, my driver's license, my registration, and she said 3 hours. I was just like, oh my God. So I literally was going to give it a go. I was like, all right, I'm here. I've got nothing else to do. I might as well just stay.
Was it busy?
No. See, that was the other thing.
That's what I don't understand.
That was the other thing. No one was there. Then she came out to say, the state's computers are down. If you have an appointment, it might take 2 to 3 hours. If you don't have an appointment, it might take 3 to 5 hours. Oh and I was like, I'm leaving. And I'd already been there an hour.
Yeah.
So I went to the desk and I set up an appointment and to set up an appointment. And she was like, we don't have any appointments until it was going to be after my surgery.
Yeah.
So I was like, give me the first one, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we were going to Pensacola a week after my surgery. So I'd wanted it before we went. And so I managed to get it like Wednesday or Thursday before we left the following week. Like we were going to go like 10 days after my surgery to Florida. And we went, I had an appointment, and I think it still took 2 hours because she came out and said, like, the computers were down. The computers are slow. And I'm like, what the hell? I get it. I can't shoot the messenger because she's just telling me, like, what she can and can't do. Obviously, she can't fix the computers if that's really it or not. But I think I would hate those kind of things where like I would have to come out and deliver those messages to people. But because literally once I got in, it took me 5 minutes.
We were there for 5 minutes.
She took my driver's license. She took my letter. She had, I don't even think she needed my registration because it's not attached to my vehicle because I can move the placard to any car that I'm in. Took my picture, printed my new little card because I had to be able to prove that handicap tag belonged to me.
Yeah.
And then we were done.
Yep.
Yeah. That whole process took about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Tops. The longest part was waiting for my picture to print out. So those are the things that I think I would dislike.
That's funny.
But I think I could work anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, if there was structure, there was an office.
Yeah.
Now that is where I will say that my job, I do work from home. I make my own schedule.
I don't think you can handle. I think that would be
my biggest struggle after almost 6+ years of working from home at my own schedule. Having to go into like an 8 to 4, 9 to 5 job would be very weird and maybe a struggle, at least initially.
I think initially, I think you'd be okay, but I think that would be more, I think it would be less of doing a different job that you're used to versus like a new environment. I think that would be more for you. Because it's funny that you were like, I would hate to be the person that had to go out and tell everyone that the computers are down. I felt like when I was the fast food manager, I had to do stuff like that all the time. Yeah. It was like when I had to physically go and close the drive-through post-hurricane. Speaking of Hurricane Ida.
Oh, yeah.
Post-Ida when we were busy.
You were like the only restaurant open.
Like if you saw the grid, we were like one of the only, we were the only ones in the designated area that had power for about a week.
And you had a letter that actually said, because there was a curfew.
Yeah.
That said you were like...
We had to close. Well, we would just stay... I mean, our drive-through was just...
Or was that during the pandemic?
We were wrapped... That was through the pandemic.
Okay.
We were... I mean, like, the drive-through was just wrapped to the front, to the street at all times.
Down the street.
So, at some point, you're like... They would say... I mean, I think post-hurricane there was a curfew. I think you're correct. But it was also like... We can't just stay open. We have to close
eventually
this place because... I mean,
You had teenagers.
We had teenagers. I had minors. And we close at 10 o'clock, and we close at 10 o'clock. Like, And so I had to go put on the reflective. I had to give my most trusted, unless there wasn't another manager there, I would give like the most trusted crew member like my card and the stuff, like so if they needed to do something, I would keep the headset on so I could talk to them, and I would physically put on the little safety jacket, get the cones, and I would just block it off, and I would just sit there. I'd be like, sorry, our drive-thru's closed. People would run over the cones. People would try and like weave inside of it. So I got to the point to where I got the cones, and it was just completely like surrounding the whole, like a car's length of just cones all next to each other. I'm like, I don't care. They were still running them over. They were still trying.
Because y'all had like three entrances technically.
Yeah. So
the side and the two front.
I couldn't block off. I wanted to block off the entrances, but I couldn't do that. I had to block off the drive-through. And so I would just tell people, I'm like, sorry, we close at 10 o'clock. I have minors. We have to close up. We have to go home. Like, sorry. And I mean, there were people in line that were like screaming stuff at me and yelling stuff at me. And I'm just like, I honestly did not care. And so,
well, I mean, and I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it, because it's like they're yelling at you about fast food.
About a fact. I mean, like, it's,
right.
I'm not being a dick about it. Like, we close at 10. At least I'm explaining it to you instead of just locking up and ignoring you on the intercom like all the other managers did. Like,
right.
I was at least doing the respectful thing and being like, no, we are closed. There was one time when a car pulled in and I had like cleared off the drive-thru, everything was fine, and then he pulled in, he's like, oh, y'all are closed. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, like, we closed at 10. It was like 10:15 or something like that. I'm like, sorry, we closed at 10. He was like, oh, please, like, can we please order, like, you know, started doing the whole like hurricane, we don't have any power, we're hungry. In the back of my head, I'm just like, then you should have gotten here before 10 o'clock. You know, like, I want to say like, well, then you should have gotten here before 10 o'clock, but you know, you want to be nice, you want to be sensitive. They might be going through a lot, so like, you don't know people's stories.
Right.
And so he was like, look, we'll order, but I'll give you $20 if you let us order. And I was just like, I almost said yes. I was just like, because we all have a price, and I will
let a car through for $20.
Yeah, for $20. I was just like, he saw it too. I stopped.
It's like Black Friday on Superstore.
Exactly.
$40.
Yeah.
Mateo putting his hand out like, oh, you want a TV?
For you, for us, for you, for them. And then puts his hand out like that. Yeah, pretty much. If he would have gone higher, I would have said yes. Yeah. I would have been like, you know what? Tell me what you want. I'll order it. I'll tell them over because I have my headset on. And I'll like and just pull into the second window. And I would have been their hero, but I was just like, those crew members, you're going to be in my life for 5 seconds. Those crew members are going to be with me until I leave this place. So, no, I have to look out for them. So I was just kind of like, no, I'm sorry. If anyone, I told him, I was like, if anyone found out like I took a bribe or something like that, I can get into a lot of trouble. Well, that's just
it. Like the next thing is it ends up on Facebook or Instagram. Like,
I paid this manager $20 and we got free canes, or you make something up. And
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, like I kind of just had to say no. But yeah, it's just funny that you said that would be the hardest part, because I think that would be the easiest part for me. It's just being like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, like working at the DMV, people are always like, oh, you have to be rude and mean. I'm like, no, you don't. You just have to give people bad news. Like, you're not being mean about it. You're just
correct. I mean, I feel like
you just have to constantly inconvenience people's days.
That
and that I can live with. So like I can.
You and I are very opposite that way, because I mean I just
it's life. I mean, like, it's life. Well, you know what I mean?
Well, I kind of feel like the whole reservation and appointment thing brings me to the Seinfeld car rental episode.
What's the point?
Yeah, like. See, you know how to take the reservation, but you don't know how to hold it.
Right.
You know, it's like, what is the point of me having an appointment if it doesn't really exist?
Exactly, yeah.
Like, because I felt bad really for the first time I went, when the people were told it was going to be like 3 or 4 hours instead of the 1 to 3 hours that they were going to have to.
Yeah.
But the whole craziness was there was hardly anyone there.
Well, the time that we went, though, they were packed. Like,
well, yeah, because they were making up for all the ones that they hadn't been able to do the prior week.
So all those other people were probably got the same exact appointment at the same exact time as you did, because they just kept saying, oh, you just come in at this time. We'll have this many workers. Like, they probably in their mind have like some science figured out that they obviously don't have figured out. But,
well, right, but we did make actual time appointments. I mean, it was.
Oh yeah, yeah. Whew, all right.
I know.
We got heated.
A lot of talk about the government there.
Well, we should get into this plot summary. So the episode's only 22 minutes, and I feel like they did a really good job. I remember, it's really funny because I was thinking about this a second ago. When we originally did, I would say, like, when we did our trailer for the very first time, I believe we defined what a pilot for a TV show was. Or maybe that was in one of our first rehearsals. I don't remember. We had a few iterations of it. I'd have to go back and listen, but the actual definition of a TV pilot is it's the first episode of a series that introduces the characters, the setting, and the overall theme of the series. A lot of shows are really good at like expanding that and being really detailed. I feel like the Parks and Recreation pilot did that at its like barest. Like they really did like, okay, this is everyone's basic introduction. This is going to be the basic premise. There you go. Like it was very simple.
In Pawnee.
Whereas with MASH, I think that was like a 2.5 page summary, and it was the same amount of time as this one. I got a page and a half, and I really had to like, I really kind of had not add, but I really kind of had to like stretch things out. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, add things. All right, so let's get into it. It won't take that long. So
all right.
Leslie Knope, a mid-level bureaucrat with 6 years of experience in the Parks and Recreation Department in the town of Pawnee, Indiana, not too far away from Hawkins, Indiana.
Stranger Things.
Surveys Leslie Knope. She's surveying children about their experiences in the local park before she dislodges a drunk man from a slide. She discusses with the documentary crew her strong belief in the power of government to help other people. Later, Leslie hosts a community outreach public forum at an elementary school along with her jaded colleague, Tom Haverford. Leslie is enthusiastic despite the low turnout. Local nurse Ann Perkins complains about a giant pit near her house, which was dug out, then abandoned by a condominium developer that went bankrupt in the middle of the construction project. Anne says her boyfriend broke both of his legs after falling into the pit, and she demands something be done about it. Leslie is inspired by the challenge and vows that she will get the pit filled in and build a park on the land. So this kind of becomes the original storyline for the show. Yeah. The show is kind of always what's Leslie's project? Like that's always kind of like that. So this is kind of the park, this park idea that she has in the first episode. This is kind of like the long running kind of storyline of the show of her. They kind of come back to it every now and then, kind of in the middle of the series. They come back to it and then they kind of leave it again and they come back to it. But yeah, so like each season, each era is like Leslie planning some big event. It's like her, like the Harvest Festival and all that other stuff. Leslie seeks advice from colleague Mark Brandanowitz, who feels the project would prove practically impossible due to the logistics and bureaucratic red tape. But Leslie's enthusiasm is undeterred. Leslie later fondly tells the documentary crew that she and Mark made love 5 years ago, but Mark only vaguely recalls the encounter. Leslie, Tom, and department intern April Ludgate visit Anne at her house where they meet Anne's boyfriend, Andy Dwyer, a lazy and demanding musician who Anne is forced to wait on and support financially. As the four of them inspect the pit, Leslie envisions the vast amount of things that could be done with a lot. Yeah, it was really funny. She was just like saying, oh, and the slide could go over here, and the thing can go over here, and Rashida Jones just like, it's really not that big of a lot.
Right, yeah.
I thought that part was really funny. Yeah, though Anne tries to dissuade her, Leslie is determined. Unfortunately, while attempting to make her way down, Leslie falls and tumbles to the bottom, which, among other things, ends up knocking off Leslie's shoes. Sometime later, Leslie asks her boss, Ron Swanson, director of the Parks and Recreation Department, for permission to form an exploratory committee for the pit project. Ron initially refuses, but eventually agrees to consider it so that Leslie will leave his office, which is pretty much how Leslie always gets her way with Ron.
Yeah.
Just annoy him long enough.
Just beat him down with her annoyance and asking.
Well, I mean, all Ron wants is to be left alone, and Leslie knows that.
Say I'm the best. Say we're the best. Say I'm the best. Say we're the best.
Ron explains that he does not want the Parks Department to build any parks because, as a libertarian, he believes the government is a waste of taxpayer money and that the park system should be privatized and run by corporations for profit. Leslie repeatedly pesters Ron about the park project, but he refuses to commit. Meanwhile, Tom and April openly mock Leslie with photos taken of her in the pit, which is also really funny, much to the displeasure of Mark. Mark, who tells the documentary crew he is impressed that Leslie has somehow maintained her optimism about government for 6 years after he lost his after a couple of months, ultimately decides to help her. He cashes in an old favor Ron owes him by asking Ron to give her the green light. Leslie and Anne are extremely excited about the new exploratory subcommittee, and despite her skepticism about politics and government, Anne pledges to do whatever it takes to get that pit filled in, even if it takes 2 months, which it takes the entire series.
The whole season, the whole series.
Up until, just spoiler alert, up until Rashida Jones leaves the show. It's her last episode officially on the show. The park is open, and her and Leslie sit at the park, and it's a really sweet scene.
Yeah.
And this is also the beginning of Leslie and Anne becoming best friends, which becomes a really sweet part of the show.
Oh, yeah, throughout.
As the show continues, especially kind of season 3 and on, when Anne is single and Leslie is like looking, and they're both single, and like their dynamic just becomes really sweet and becomes really cute. Anne is so grounded, and Leslie is just like always 100% all the time, always ready to go. And I just love their dynamic. Just so many... I kind of right out of the gate, like so many dynamics have kind of already been created, like kind of April's disdain for the job, and Tom just kind of not ever really caring, and if it embarrasses Leslie, then he's all for it, kind of thing. Like it just kind of, there's a lot of kind of ongoing jokes that started right in the first episode.
Well, and you knew their characters right away. I mean, you knew Ron was like the grumpy, like you said, like government. This is a waste. Corporation should do this. Tom was always just ready to like party and have fun, and Leslie was just the eternal optimist. And then seeing Andy with Anne was just hilarious, because obviously that changes later.
Yeah.
Because then he ends up with April,
which becomes such a huge part of the show.
Right. Yeah. And then you're just like, whoa, they end up together. Mm-hmm. That's even crazier. So,
right. And in the first episode, when they walk into the house and like April's like has her hoodie on, I'm like, oh, they don't even know yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Really cute. I love this show. I mean, like it's hard to watch it before it becomes what it became. But I definitely recommend, if you've never watched the show before, I don't want to
treat yourself.
I don't want to say start with season 3. I say start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning.
And it's still funny. It just, the dynamic changes, because I still feel like they were trying to make it The Office, like in the beginning at least.
Oh, yes.
It very much felt like Leslie was just a more likable Michael Scott, a little bit more politically correct. And a little bit more professional, but like kind of equally kind of head in the clouds, not necessarily grounded in the sense of like she thinks anything is possible, and that's not really reality kind of idea. But yeah, I can't recommend the show enough. And if you haven't watched the show in a long time, go back and watch some episodes. Like,
oh my gosh, I will tell you, if we're just in bed and we can't think of anything, I'll be like, will you put on Soulmates?
Or Pawnee Rangers.
Or those will just always, those are like some of my comfort episodes, and I just love them. Oh yeah.
All right, you think that about wraps up this one?
I do. I think this about wraps it up.
All right, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. You can also follow us on Instagram at WeJudgePilotPod. You can also follow us on Facebook. Leave us a comment, maybe suggest a show for us to watch. And as always, you can leave emojis in the comments. What you got? You don't really have a lot.
I don't have too many for this
Sometimes, I'm not kidding, y'all. Sometimes I look down at Anna's, I almost called you Anne. Anna's
Ann Perkins
legal pad, and it is just filled with words and scribble scratch, and she has so many, but it is all neatly listed, and I want to hear them.
Okay, I don't know if there's like a park, but like I think there's like a park with the trees.
Yeah.
The sports to represent the recreation, like, you know. I have this one, and it doesn't become relevant until later, but the waffle, because Leslie
JJ's Diner.
Yeah, she loves waffles.
Yeah.
The school, the microphone, the drunk emojis, the slide, a camera for the actual, like the mockumentary, like the the movie camera.
Well, then
any of
also
the
Tom
music.
took pictures of Leslie when she fell in the pit.
And then I have the camera
Oh.
like on a phone or like a camera
okay.
camera. I have both.
I didn't know that there were different ones.
Yes, there are.
I didn't know that.
A peach only for my favorite episode later. Like, not
that.
this one, but I knew that one. The legs to represent his broken legs, the shoes, and I don't know what I just wrote here, but I don't know. Anyway, I forgot what I wrote after camera. I don't know what I just wrote. Like it.
You need to take a picture of that. That is.
I don't even know what the heck that was. I don't know what the last thing we were talking about. Was there a note or something?
I don't know. That's really funny.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we will talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.